I said I would read 2 to 4 books a month at the start of the year, but here's what actually happened. Hi, I'm Sarita and welcome to my YouTube channel where I try things and share experience about the same, from travel to everything in between. We are 6 months into the year and it's the best time to check your resolution which you made at the start of the year. Most people who set a reading goal basically quit it by a week or two. I know because I did it on my own, but this year I set a firm goal to read at least 2 to 4 books a month. So today I did the math and hitting the number was not the important part. But what I read, that was the important part, and that today we'll discover in this video. So this is not here's a list of a books video now. I'm going to tell you exactly what I read, what surprised me, what shocked me from each of these books. So let's talk about numbers. I read 20 books in 6 months, which comes to an average of around 3.3 books per month, which hits my target, my reading goal. So at some month, I was able to read 3 to 4 books, whereas other months when I was traveling, I was barely able to make up to 1 or 2 books a month. I told myself I would read a mix of books, for example, fiction, self-help, management. But when I laid down the books to plan this video, I realized something. 13 out of those 20 books fall into Japanese fiction. So I basically fell into it and did not realize it until this moment when I calculated the numbers. So I'm going to give each book a score out of 10, just my gut feeling and not a formal review. So by the end, you would have a good idea about which book to pick and which not. First, we are doing fiction. So let's start. So first set of book is More Days at Morisaki Bookshop. There are actually 2 books in it, and the name it's very simple: Days at Morisaki Bookshop and More Days at Morisaki Bookshop. This book is by Satoshi Yagisawa and I would give this 8 out of 10. I'll tell you why. Because the pace of this book is amazing. It's slow and some days you would sit with a cup of coffee and you feel like finishing the whole book in one sitting. It's that amazing. It's about a girl who moves to her uncle's house after a breakup, and suddenly the people and the area, that sort of comforts her without even realizing she has actually grown out to be a better person. So that's first. Third book on the list is Men Without Women by Murakami. I would give this book 7 out of 10 and I'll tell you why. First of all, it's a set of independent stories combined into one, and the book talks about men who have lost women in their life, one way or the other. This book talks about loneliness in such a depth that you cannot finish it in one go. You need to keep the book down after every story because it had such huge impacts and it makes you feel so lonely at times. So it's not for the light-hearted people. Fourth book in the list is Pachinko by Jin Lee. I would give this book 10 on 10. First of all, this is one of the best read of this year. And if you talk about story, there's a female protagonist in the story named Sunja, and it's her story how the multi-generational family, they belong from Korea but they move to Japan and what happens to them. This story is very deep. It talks about the cost of belonging somewhere which actually never fully claims you. So there's a huge gap throughout the story, emotional baggage and gap. This is the first book I read from Jin Lee, and I went so crazy after that I even wrote a blog about expressing how I felt right after finishing it. You might want to check that out. Okay, fifth book in the list is Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I would give this book solid 8 out of 10. Why? Because this book talks about a library between life and death and how every book gives you a chance of a different life which you could have chosen, right? So you have multiple options to read, and the girl, the protagonist in the movie, and the girl, the protagonist in the book, actually does something like that. It's crazy. It will blow your mind. Definitely give it a read. Okay, sixth book in the list is What Are You Looking For in the Library? I would give this 8 out of 10, and it's a book by Michigo Oyama. It's a very pretty book. Okay, I'll tell you what happened. So there's this librarian who sits, of course, in the library, and so there are people coming in library. Some people have different life problems, partner problem, finance problem, any problem, and this lady, she gives them a book, and that book apparently solves their life problem in one way or the other. So it takes a lot of time for those people to connect the dot, but the way the drama builds up around is top tier, top level. Give it a read. Okay, seventh book in the list is The Devotion of Suspect X by Keigo Higashino. This book, I would give this first of all 8 out of 10. A mystery told backwards, and the tension is built up how the story is told, how the narrative opens up. This book again and again made me rethink how people are capable of loving other people, like doing it in the loving the right person but the wrong way, and how far they can go. A small note that there is also a movie made on this book, so you might want to maybe watch that or read this book. The eighth book in the list is Days at Torunga Cafe. It's by the same author who wrote Days at Morisaki Bookshop. It's by Satoshi Yagisawa again. I would give this book 7 out of 10. It has the same energy as the first book which I read, and this book overall makes me feel like moving to Tokyo and open a cafe there. It has very similar energy, you know, there's a cafe, people comes in and they have story linked to each other, and how everyone just, you know, sorts of stays with each other, builds a connection and move on in their life. It's very sweet. Give it a read. The ninth book in the series is The Lantern of Lost Memories by Sanaka Hiraki. I would give this book 7 out of 10. First of all, it's a tiny book. It's a quite a book, talks about memories and grief over the time. It's a nice bedtime story read, but I did not find it much intriguing, or you know, I could not relate to it much. So 10th book in the list is Great Japanese Short Stories. It's again a collection of very small stories from Japan Kingdom, and I would give this 6 out of 10. This book is basically a cheat code of me understanding why I read so many Japanese books, what is it, you know, what more is there in the kingdom, the country, the tales and everything. So it's a nice collection of all those tales, but yeah, it's a bedtime story sort of thing. The 11th book in series is Ayodhya Alliance by Ashwin Sangvi. This is a good detour from my Japanese streak. It broke my Japanese streak actually. I would give this book 6 out of 10. I think it could have been more deeper. Novels opens up about when Ravana is dying and he passes a secret to Lakshmana about a secret, mysterious, powerful technology tied to Ayodhya. So I think it could have been more. The 12th book in series is Free Food for Millionaire by Jin Lee. This is the second book of her which I read. First was Pachinko, and I would give this book 8 out of 10. Her earlier work was very messy and very ambitious. I would suggest you to read Pachinko first and then comes to this book. This book talks about a Korean American immigrant which are based in America, and how the girl, the protagonist, she struggles through her way in New York to make her space in American society. It's interesting, but I would suggest that you read Sunja's story before. The 13th book in the series is Hooked by Asako Yuzuki. It's I have not finished it yet. I'm towards the end, but from whatever I've gathered, it's very unsettling book, and I would give it 7 out of 10. And now we'll move to the self-help and non-fiction section. So we'll start with the 14th book. It's called Let Them by Mel Robbins, and I've seen this book on a lot of shelves in the top 30 bestsellers throughout the year posts across multiple countries, and that's the reason I picked it up, because I wanted to know what people are reading. So in the bottom line, the idea of this book is stop spending your energy on other people. Do not try to control them. Let them be, and you spend that energy on yourself. I think that's what we all are trying to do here. So it's a good read if you're trying to preserve that energy and, you know, do something for your own good. And I would give this book 8 out of 10. 15th book is How to Talk to Anyone by Leah Lowndes. I would give this book 7 out of 10. It's that book which if you finish it once, you come back and revisit it again and again. It has a lot of practical tactics and tips which can help you build a conversation or a connection with anyone out there. 16th book in the series is On the Shortness of Life by Seneca, and I would give this book first of all 8 out of 10. This book talks about that the way humans spend time as if they have infinite amount of time. It's not. You only have limited. You better spend your energy, your goal, your desires, everything on that. The 17th book on series is The Art of Spending Money by Ken Housel. I would give this book a solid 9 out of 10, and it's again one of the books which you read and you revisit it again to clear concepts. This book talks about how spending is not a math problem. It's a value problem. You basically spend on the stuff you most care about. The 18th book on the list is The Daily Artist Way by Julia Cameron. So I picked this book because I was reading something last year throughout the day, The Stoic. It has 365 pages for 365 days, and for this year 2026 I needed something, you know, something similar which has one page for every day. So I picked it up. I thought it would be an amazing read. It's basically for people who want to be creative but just, you know, keep on postponing. They're saying that they don't have time. It's for those people. I, on the other hand, is a creative person but not that creative, so I don't know if I need a nudge, but I do read it whenever I need a, you know, some sort of persuasion that okay, go do write a blog or read a book, or, you know, finish editing your blog, something like that. So it has pages like this where you talk about each day, you know, one thing which you can focus on, and then there's a saying. Yeah, So this book also has saying by very important people. So it's a fine read. Every day, you if you need a nudge from someone else to do a task, this is your book for it. And I would give this 6 out of 10. The 19th book is the Book of Elon, and I'm still reading it. It's by Eric Torgerson. So this is one such book which you can read in fragments, right? If you want to learn a lesson, you just go and read that chapter. So this book talks about ambition and how far someone can go for that. So definitely a good read, whether you agree with a guy or not. And I would give this 5 out of 10. The last book in the series is The Vocabulary of a Manager. It's by Charles Holding, and this is one book which I picked it up from Bangalore airport last month, I guess. And it talks about how you need to communicate with your colleagues and your manager, and how your vocabulary needs to be crisp. You should not be beating around the bush, just come to the point and all. Since I work in a remote setup where I have colleagues from more than 20 nations and more than 15 time zones, it becomes extremely important that I'm communicating on the point, the right thing. I know, be it messages on Slack or email. So it was very much needed for me. I've read it, I've almost finished it, and it has some really good tips. And it's again a book which you can revisit if you would like to work on your vocabulary. And I would give this book 8 out of 10. So if I had to pick one thing this 6 months of reading taught me, I think it was variety, but I was wrong. It was comfort over and over of Japanese fiction book, those helpful books, those books nudging me to be, sit in a quiet space and read. I did that, and I don't think that's a problem. I think that is exactly what I needed for the first 6 months of the year. So for the next 6 months, I think I'm going to choose more management books, or maybe books who inspire me, who push me to be a better version of myself. Here's the actual question for all of you. If you laid down everything you have consumed in the last 6 months, would it tell a story which you want to narrate, or would it tell you something which you have not noticed? So next 6 months, it's again the same goal. I'm going to read 2 to 4 books a month, and but I'm adding a rule to it. I would pick up one book which I normally would not have picked, and let's see where it takes me. If you guys have recommendation, drop in the comments. I do read it. And yeah, thanks for subscribing and listening to me talk about my favorite thing, the books, and I'll see you in the next one.